Hey, folks. Welcome to the Bob Culture SquadCast Live. I'm Bob Harrison. I am here by myself. Mike's not with me tonight, but he will be back next week. Next week, we have a great guest. We have Elliot Rahal going to join us next week. This week, we have a pair of guests. Christie Porter and Phillip Sevy are going to be here, and we're going to talk about their new Kickstarter that's running right now and all the things about it. We'll talk about their careers as well. I want to start off just for a minute before we bring in our guests, talking about what's going on in the world. We're not going to talk about the horrible that's going on. We'll talk about some comic stuff. If you haven't figured it out, San Diego Comic-Con is next week, because if you are in the comics industry at all or paying attention to comics, there's no way to get around the fact that San Diego Comic-Con is next week. It is on every news thing. Everybody is talking about what they're going to be doing there, the panels that are going on. It's going to be a great time. If you are going to be there, you're going to have a great time. I know that that's the case. It is a mass of people, and it is going to be a place where so much is going to go down. We're probably going to get news every probably 15 minutes about new people, new things getting announced, and that'll be fun. I'm not going to be there this year, but it'll be a good time for people who will be there. And like I said, we'll try and keep up with it. We may talk about it a little bit next week. We'll definitely recap it the week after. And you know, I just feel like you can't get away from it right now, and I'm sure everybody's freaking out on their way there. I just want to talk about one more thing before we bring our guests in, because it is a thing that just is mind-boggling. It showed up in my text. Actually, Mike, my partner, who's not here, texted me this, and it was excuse me, buddy, go. We have a cat invasion tonight. But last week there was an announcement, or there was an auction at Heritage Auctions, and it was it's shocking to me. I think shocking is the appropriate word. So I'm going to share it with you guys, folks, real quick. This auction happened last week. It is the page one of Tales of Suspense, I think 39, whatever. It's the first appearance of Iron Man. This is the first page of Iron Man that existed. And it sold, it is the actual page, and it sold for $3.8 million. And that's gross to me. That is too much money to be spending on a piece of comic page. It is a record for a single page. But wow. Just a lot. Just a lot. Yes. It is yes, Bill. It was $3.875 million. Don Heck got none of it. Don Heck's estate got none of it. I think this was sold a long time ago. There was a buyer's premium involved. It was part of a much larger lot. But absolutely insane. And I think, you know, it's the thing that we talk about often, the insanity with money and wealth. If someone has that much money to spend on a page of comics, I am sure that they could have done something different with it that probably would have helped more people. You know, we're in a business, we talk about comics. We want people to spend money on comics because, you know, it's good, because we want our comics creator friends to make a living, and you know, they can have a buck or two. There's nothing wrong with that. But that is just pure, just mind-blowing craziness. And I don't know. I felt I needed to talk about it. I was going to talk about it with Mike. Like I said, Mike's not here tonight. But you tell us what you think. I mean, obviously, it's a lot. And sorry about this, buddy. Say hi, Grayson. You want to see everybody? Say hi. All right, here we go. All right, so I want to bring in our guests. we originally, for full disclosure, people who watch the show, you may have heard, we were supposed to have a different set of guests tonight. They have a you know family emergency, death in the family that they needed to attend to. So the Benson sisters will be with us later on this year, hopefully next month, and we'll talk about some cool stuff with them. But luckily, we had that. Not luckily, by happenstance, we were able to find a fill-in guests, somebody that I was interested in. I was interested in having a conversation with these people. I've wanted to have Philip on for a while. I'm just very interested in his work. But this particular project that they're working on also felt right. Felt like this was the project that I wanted to talk to people about because of all the things that are into it. And we're going to get into it really quickly. But before we get into all those things about this Kickstarter project, let's bring them in. So we're going to bring in Phillip Sevy and Christie Porter. Welcome to the show. Hey guys, how are you? Oh, I think you're muted. There you go.
Oh, there we
go.
How are you?
We're good. How are you?
I'm good. Like I said, I wanted to have you guys on, or have you guys talk to you for a while. I'm a huge fan of your work. I'm Philip, and it just felt like we have so many mutual friends, and it seemed like it was something that was destined to happen. And again, like I said, serendipity putting us in the situation. I want to talk about She Comes with Magic. So let's talk about that. Let me bring it into the show. So this Kickstarter project that you guys have created together,
Yes.
She Comes with Magic, is already funded. It is super interesting to me. It's the conversation that I wanted to have. I want to talk about NSFW adult comics with sex positivity, with inclusion that is not out there, made by people who are we'll use the word incel. This is not what this is.
Man.
Yeah,
it's not what this is.
Nope.
And it's why I wanted to have this conversation.
No, my celibacy is totally voluntary.
Sure.
No,
that's
just kidding.
fine.
Sorry.
Absolutely. For people who aren't familiar with it, first of all, we're going to share the links soon enough. But there was a couple of things in the intro that you guys have laid out. It is what you wrote here is the oversized first issue is stuffed with 32 pages of steamy artwork, charming characters, scintillating story, and high stakes magical adventure set in a fleshed out fantasy realm. And we're going to talk about some more of it later. But tell us the idea about what's behind the story that you guys are trying to tell with this book.
Yeah, so I mean, like, high level story, just kind of our pitch when we describe the book to people is it follows our main character named Maeve. She is a wizard and she channels magic through orgasm. And through the course of the first issue, she comes across a prophecy that foretells her defeating the evil kind of antagonist of the book. So she sets out on this quest to do that. And in order to do so, she's going to have to channel a lot of magic. So I think it came from a place where we were talking quite a few years just about, we felt there was a hole in the comic market, like a missing everything's an entendre. There was an underserved genre in comics where there was not kind of a, not safe for work, erotic content, things falling in line with romantasy or smut or whatever you want to call it. And it was just kind of a conversation that we had over the last couple of years about like what could we come up with that would serve this area and this genre. And it kind of came together as we were also talking about like finding a project that would work specifically for Kickstarter. Kickstarter is its own environment, and I feel very strongly like it's not necessarily the place you go when you're like, well, no one else wanted it, I guess I'll take it to Kickstarter. Like in order to be successful on Kickstarter, it takes not only a tremendous amount of work, but like to know and understand the marketplace. Like, what does Kickstarter like? What do the backers flock to? What projects have more success than others? And this was kind of all of that came together, where I texted Christie while they were at work one day, and I was like, what if we had a story about a wizard who gets magic when she comes? And by the end of the day, we had the first issue and the arc of the series broken out, because it was one-upping each other with like outrageous, exciting ideas and finding ways to integrate plot, character, and sex together in a way that felt complementary and holistic, instead of one being tacked on in order to serve the other.
I think that's fantastic. And I wanted, I need to let people know I've seen the whole issue 1, and it's wonderful. It's such a, it's such an interesting thing. Like, and I want to really, I hope you guys are up for this. I want to have this discussion. Like,
I'm up for it. I don't know what it is, but I'm up for it.
There are comics that are very well known and very, very, well regarded, that talk about powers related to orgasm. One of them going to be I think it's still going to be a TV show. I don't know.
They're shooting it right now.
Sex
Sex
Criminals?
Criminals.
Yeah.
They're shooting the pilot right now.
It's so there is that, but that was an Image book that was put out on a monthly basis. And again, part of the issue conversation I wanted to have is, growing up, when I was growing up, there were ways to get comics that had explicit parts in them and explicit actions. They were usually behind a curtain at the back of the comic shop. And we talked about this show earlier. Like last week, we spent a lot of time talking about the Fabulous Freak Brothers that I have here. Why did you want to make this as explicit as possible, as it is? And again, I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I want to hear your rationale and stuff like that.
Sure.
I mean, I think for me, I mean, it's hard to talk about, sex and books that, are very explicitly contain sex without talking about like sort of that, stigma that's around it. Like we can have comics that are, horrifically violent and show just blood and gore and guts flying everywhere, people getting ripped in half, and that won't get half as much as like pearl clutching as like, oh no, somebody had like consensual sex on the panel. I think, and not to like, necessarily compare those two things, but I felt like there was such a, I don't know. If you're gonna write anything, like challenge people's preconceptions and notions and just period challenge them, right? Like for me, that's such the fun part of creating something is introducing new ideas to people. And while we have like smut out there, we have romantasy out there. I think, so much of what's out there is afraid to push that stigma.
Right now, smut and romantasy is on a rise. They're riding a wave. It's whether it's real or not, people are talking about it. People are talking about what, whichever book they're reading, and it's all prose. And here, this is right in front of you, Phillip. Fantastic work.
It's true.
But it is very, very visually explicit, and that makes it different. But it's also kind of the conversation I wanted to have about Kickstarter. There was recently some issues with how Kickstarter was going to be receptive to work like this. Obviously your page. I'm going to tell you, folks, their page is super tame, super tame compared to what the book looks like. It's fantastic, but it is good. But I'm sorry. I have to say, like, I got it and I was like, whoa, okay, all right, that's what this is. And perfectly. So here's the thing I want to say about this. It's a good comic. It's a good story. And I spend a lot of time reading comics. It is the narrative from point A to point B to point C to where we get to at the end. I am ready for a full-on epic with this story. You did a great job of setting up the story and the world within the comic. And it's funny because I thought about it as I was talking to some people that in comics, there's typically, you know, especially even superhero comics, there's some talk, big fight, talk, big fight. This one has, you know, there's some fight in it, but there's also some sex in it. And it's just kind of like those normal stopping points or breath points that have a fight have a different type of interaction in this. And I think that's really why I like it so much, because it flows in that manner, in the way that I expect a comic to be crafted.
Yeah, thank you. We spent a lot of time and a lot of work finding the right balance and the right pacing. There were times where certain scenes or sections were a couple pages longer. And when we stepped back and examined it, we're like, oh, we're throwing off the balance and the flow a little too much one way or the other way. What can we do to make sure we show just enough, whether that's character interaction, whether that is world building, whether that is sex, whether that is violence, like finding the thing that kept it moving along and engaging without ever giving you too much to the point where you were just a little like tedious. The issue is 32 pages, and our goal is for each subsequent issue to be 32 pages, but to each tell like a self-contained story that builds on one another. So it was very important for us to structure and use the real estate we have to make sure when someone pledges money on Kickstarter and gets an issue, if She Comes with Magic, they feel like I got definitely a story that was worth my time and money, because Kickstarters are generally higher price points than direct market stuff. And we're not going to be able to put it out every single month just by virtue of everything that goes into it. So we want to make sure that when people get it, it is a full experience that kind of touches upon everything we want to talk about and communicate in the story. And there's quite a bit beyond the surface of like, there's epic fantasy and there's sex. There's a lot of conversations we want to have about consent and about autonomy and about understanding yourself and pushing back against systems and structures you were raised in, and a lot.
You know, one of the other things you're talking about a lot is inclusivity. Everyone is represented, it feels like, in this book. And everyone is allowed to have a sexual side and an identity, and I love that about it. It definitely is having conversations. It's definitely asking questions, and you know, one of the things I like about a book like this is that it's not telling me how I should feel. It's not telling the reader that they should believe this way or that way, but it's presenting them with an option and saying, hey, what do you think? You should think about it.
Yeah, and I think that was something that crossed my mind a couple of times was, you know, if, you know, the concern of like, oh, this, you know, these really explicit sex scenes that, you know, do and will, you know, include people that look a million different ways and present a million different ways. And, you know, and it's kind of, there's something a little cheeky for me, I think, about being able to pose the question to people without actually asking the question to people. Like,
Sure.
If this makes you feel uncomfortable, why does this make you feel uncomfortable? Like it's an invitation for self-reflection and, you know, assessing one's, you know, the things that make, like, you know, the things that, you know, we might take a step back at or balk at, but, you know, there's nothing wrong here. It's consensual sex, right? Like, and it's people fully possessing of their faculties, engaging in something and having a good time. So why are you uncomfortable?
Sure.
Yeah. And tried over the course of my career, and I think it's gotten easier with the better I've got with experience and skill. But when I'm drawing characters, to try really to take a step back and look like, do they look different face wise? Are their bodies different? Is there a variety in ethnicity and shape and anything possible along the spectrum? And, you know, certain books allow you a larger landscape of diversity. When you're drawing like X-Men, there is diversity among X-Men, but also it's a superhero book, right? There's a certain look.
Everybody's hot.
There's a certain way that everyone comes across. So with this one, it's like, oh, we're building our own world. It's fantasy, and we can literally do anything. So why stick to very like expected standard lanes? And like, there's so much more we've talked about in future issues that definitely expand the boundaries of the diversity that we see in the first issue. And we're really excited. And then there's apparently going to be dragons.
Dragons. Yeah, okay, well, you're going to win with dragons.
Thank you. I know. I can't wait for the dragon. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. Yeah, I think that's just it. It's like, oh, there's so much we can do, and we're really excited to do that, because I think opening up different perspectives and different viewpoints and different areas of diversity allows not only people to feel seen and to see representation, but it also opens that invitation for those who are different than what they're seeing to think about that and reflect. And so much of my foundational understandings of different viewpoints and opinions came from shows and comics and movies that showed me different experiences than what I was living at the time, from the time I was a kid all the way into an adult. Like, stories expand our views and invite us to learn and to grow and to challenge our preconceived notions about what the world is. And hopefully we can do that with our book.
I think that's fair. I think that's exactly right. But I also want to take a second, and I really would like to know more about this boy. So
I know it's coming. Yeah.
I want. So it says, just so you know, if you go to the site, so authors note, Vaz. This is Vaz, everyone. Yep. Vaz is our most special boy, and we would die for him. I pretty much would too. So I haven't even seen him colored yet in the book.
Right.
I want to know what went through your heads when you're like, oh, the seer needs this guy with him. How did his place in the story come about?
Yeah. Vaz came about a little bit later along in the development process. I think we had the first issue like pretty much scripted, like out, when one day we were just talking stuff out, hashing through a couple of story things, and I was just kind of looked up and I was like, I think we need a weird little guy. Like, I just felt like there was a hole missing in like our kind of core group of main characters that we were introducing. And Ryle is he's kind of a druid ranger type, dirty forest man, bisexual disaster of a human. And I'm like, he's not going to survive without some help.
Sure.
So Vaz also represented like a great opportunity to introduce a character that could kind of balance the definitely more exhibitionist, kind of hornier characters, with somebody who's a little more proper, a little more gentlemanly and discerning and discreet. He's very keen on discretion and making sure all their tabs are paid, even if they're chased out of the bar by evil henchmen. So he's Vaz. I don't know. Once we got talking about it, I think in trying to sort of get across like where I was coming with this idea, I think it was the character from Saga, that Goose, that is sort of like a touchstone. So I was like, kind of that similar spot where with the added benefit that he's so freaking adorable, I just want all of like the merch for him. So the book has to do well so we can make Vaz merch.
I'm looking forward to the Vaz merch. I will say that. As you were developing this, I know, Philip, you've created books from whole cloth before. What was the process doing this together in this partnership? How did that work for you guys?
Yeah, so we've done a couple like anthology short stories together over a couple of years, and been working on a handful of different projects, be it prose, comic, even some film stuff, just in our spare time. It's when we hang out, we go on road trips, when we go on walks, when we do all sorts of stuff, we just keep telling stories to each other. So for this one, once we came up with the initial idea, it was just one-upping each other. It's like a real fun game of yes and when we write, because we have similar enough sensibilities, but also some very different skill sets. So we can very much get on the same page and then trade off areas where we are a little bit stronger. Like Christie's an incredible world builder. I can see plot structure pretty easy from all the years I've spent, writing and drawing and studying comics. Like plot and pacing is important just because of the limited real estate you have. So we would just kind of go back and forth and have 15 different documents, be it Google Documents, notepads, sticky notes, writing on hand. There's just like a collection of garbage that we had, anytime we had an idea, we threw it down. And then once we were kind of had a basic spine and structure to what it is, I think describing our creative process, like if it's a sculpture, I will hit the big rock with the hammer a bunch of times, and then I will push it over to Christie, who will then come in with a chisel and really start to refine the shape. So I will do like a big, quick outline of either an outline of an issue or a really quick scripting, just getting all the building blocks in there. They're not pretty. They're fairly generic and full of tropes because I'm just thinking in the way to get things moving. And then Christie will like interrogate and question everything to make sure, like, does this choice make sense for the world? Does this choice make sense for the story we're telling? This character did one thing on page 2, but on page 14 did something that that is very much goes against who they are. And from that point, it's just a process of refinement, kind of passing it back and forth until it's a point where we're like, oh, okay, there we go. Now it's definitely doing what we want it to do.
Yeah, my background originally is in journalism and like media and culture criticism and that sort of thing. So like my instinct a lot of times coming at anything is, what are we trying to say other than like the actual story itself? So once, early on we had kind of knocked out some of the themes we wanted to do. So I really felt like that, was such like a touchstone for me, that anytime, we were passing it back and forth, like going back to those, like, home-based place of like, okay, but is it all tying back into what it is we're trying to do? And we both also love writing dialogue. So that's something that we kind of get to come back together. And when we're kind of having conversations about it, and like bits of dialogue will come up, we're like, oh, they could say this, they could say this. And we're always like jotting it down, or we'll think of like a fun exchange and but it won't fit in right now. So we'll save that for later and it'll be in a future scene. So there's, periods of, apart, periods of together, but I think for the most part, it feels like, I don't know where some of the stuff started that was mine once and is now yours, and vice versa. So
yeah, and on the visual side, Christie's been a cosplayer for years. So what I was designing, or when we were designing characters, as I was drawing them, I was always bringing in Christie to double check, like, does this make sense? Is this visually exciting? Does this look like something cool that someone would want to build? I love character design and costume design, and I'm very much a strong proponent of, like, if you're going to design someone for comics, they need to look so distinct and cool that immediately people want the action figure, they want to build the cosplay, they want to draw fan art. Like, whenever I have a chance to design a character, I'm constantly asking myself that question and going back to the drawing board repeatedly until I feel like, this is a cool toy. Because, comics are visual. We want the cool toys, we want the cool stuff. And I feel some of the most successful books always have a really strong visual hook for their characters. So I was constantly double checking myself with Christie to be like, how about this? What about this? And some of those designs Maeve went through so many iterations.
Yeah, it's
a lot of iterations to find where we landed. And someone like Voz was like, oh, a vest and a bow tie and spectacles, that's all we need. Christie was like, he's a kakapo, like the giant parrot from New Zealand. And we locked him instantly.
Yeah, it was kind of a sort of I don't know, kismet sort of moment where I don't know why I was reading about cockapos, but I was, and I found out that they were sometimes called owl parrots, and that immediately like put me in like D&D brain, Dungeons and Dragons brain, and because they have owl bears, which were like created by wizards, and they're just sort of this like horrific monstrous race that they were like, here you go, look at this thing we made, merging an owl and a bear, but like, oh, but owl parrot kind of has that fun like fantasy vibe to it for me because of that. And there's a really funny viral video of Stephen Fry doing a documentary with one of his friends, and they're out in New Zealand, and there's a kakapo literally trying to mate with his friend's head. So look up that video if you haven't seen it. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
And I was like, well, that's the perfect bird for a not safe for work comic. So
sure.
So when we needed, kind of a base design for our weird little guy, like, I don't know, cockapos are like that perfect level of like owl wisdom, but like parrot cute.
So yeah, it's a fun process working together, kind of on all points of everything. There's a collaborative nature to it. So
I want to talk about the process of where you are with the book. So it is written, it is drawn, it is lettered. Who lettered it? Did you?
I lettered it myself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I work with some incredible letterers who I love, but sometimes when I'm drawing, when it's like a creator-owned thing and it's going from we're writing it together to I'm drawing it, I really enjoy putting letters down on a page. And I've lettered a handful of stuff over my career, so I don't think I feel like it's proficient and it works for my drawing because it's kind of, I letter as I draw. But yeah. And then Gibran Ferdian is coloring it. He colored about 7 pages of the book for the previews, the main cover, and I just sent him all the files like 20 minutes ago to start coloring the rest of the book because we're doing well enough on the campaign. I'm confident that we can that we'll be able to close with our goal intact.
Well, yeah, it's funded. We're ready to go. There's a great piece here that you guys said in the where you talk about the book, and it says, make no mistake, this book is not for kids. It is as earnest, explicit, and intense as it is silly, charming, and outrageous. And I think that's 100% correct. I think you did a great job with that. I think it is fun. It is fun. That's one of the things I do want to say. It's a fun book, but it's also intense. It's also it's explicit, it's outrageous, and all those things. All those words you just said, and they're perfect. The greater story, the arc of this story is that this is a world where that had known magic, and magic has been taken and collected by this villain king, and the people have been magic has been withheld from them, and there are very few magic makers left, right? And so that's part of this thing, and he's sent his goon squad out to collect the rest of the magic. It says a lot about the world we live in. I don't know where such a story might come from.
Yeah, there's definitely not a class of people in this world that are hoarding resources that once belonged to everybody, and making life harder for everyone else while they accumulate endlessly with seemingly no end to the amount that they must accumulate. And they'll do nothing but extract every little bit of that resource out of every little bit of the world and people and businesses that they can. I don't know where that idea came from. No idea at all.
And then spend $3.8 million on a comic book page.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And the artist sees none of that.
None of it.
So
yeah, I think kind of looking at Maeve, our protagonist, in response to our antagonist, Siphon, the Starving King. Like, Maeve is about returning hope to people. She is eager. She is on that quest. She is not giving up and despondent, which I think is the only thing we can do when faced with similar situations of despair in our own life. I think that was part of this book, was like art and creation is an act of resistance and an act of rebellion, especially when we're talking about autonomy and intimacy and choices and sexuality and gender and presentation and anything, bucking against kind of puritanical norms that are created for control. So this was our way of channeling some of the energy we have the anxiety and the fear and the frustration of things and the hurt into something that we feel is productive and an act of resistance and defiance of tyranny and authoritarianism and all that stuff.
And I think it was really important that, you know, is like you said, we wanted it to be fun. And as much as like all of that is there, the DNA of that is there, like, you know, there's something about Maeve in particular that, you know, we wanted her to be earnest. We wanted her to have hope. We wanted her to care deeply about what was going on around her rather than being more of a reluctant kind of participant or reluctant hero type that then had to be like convinced to go on their own quest, right? Like,
she's on a mission.
Exactly. And I think there's, you know, in that, you know, the Starving King siphon is very much this, you know, entity that is extracting and taking and hoarding and, you know, just not doing nothing but taking. I think the fact that Maeve's magic in particular is generated in an act of like intimacy, is generated with another person, a moment of connection, you know, in something that is mutual and, you know, kind of beautiful. So I think that kind of served as like, you know, a possible like balance to this other, you know, seemingly insurmountable force in this world of like, but there are still these really small moments of beautiful magic and connection.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all of that is true. I think that I think that what you guys are trying to say comes through. I think that's fair. Like I said, I mean, I said, this is what I see about what you're saying. And you're like, yeah, that's right. So that's what we're talking about. But also I want to come back to why are we having that? Why is it set with the absolutely mature level of it? And I know we've talked about it before, but I do want to come back to it and say, you know, you could have made this book without the explicit genitalia that exists in it, right? It's there. Why was that important to you?
Yeah, I think kind of from the genesis of the idea, it was not an idea that we added, you know, explicit sex into. It was baked into kind of the DNA of it. And like, you know, we pointed out, we've tried to be very, very clear with people, like, this is not for kids. Like, please be aware of what you're going into. But I mean, I felt like that was very important from the beginning of like, sex exists in life usually in every type of situation in one form or another, regardless. And making a story about all of these important themes, there was no way to not talk about what it is and not talk about that important aspect of life. And it's, you know, it's something that is so key and fundamental to our existence, and yet we shy away from it so much, especially in Western culture. It was like, you know what, let's take an opportunity to challenge that and to maybe destigmatize it. It's there and it's exciting and it's titillating, but that's not the purpose or point. That is an aspect of it. And this is, you know, a book where we wanted to explore the different aspects, not just in the first issue, but in many ways forward. You know, we come from very, very conservative, very controlling backgrounds, and especially very toxic attitudes towards sex. So there is an aspect of it of like trying to deconstruct those things and show that, you know, these things in a positive light for those who are in similar spaces, who, you know, are trying to navigate a world and trying to navigate sex with not being raised with a healthy relationship with their body or with sex. And we feel like, you know, skirting around it, having a story about a sex wizard and not actually showing the sex felt like it would be inauthentic or dishonest to the premise of the story. And by showing it, it could be empowering and could be freeing for people who are, you know, afraid or who've not been in a position where they feel safe enough to connect with or explore these ideas.
And I mean, this might be, I think, you know, just as it's important to be inclusive, to have a lot of different kind of representation, to show what a lot of different kinds of relationships can look like, and whether those are intimate relationships or otherwise. You know, I think there's something about bodies, and I think we do all kind of have, I mean, maybe at least, you know, in the background that I have, like there is very much this baked in shame around them, and I didn't want that to translate onto the page. I didn't want there to feel like there was anything to be ashamed of what was happening. There was no reason to hide what was happening. These are bodies, and they are beautiful, and everyone's having a good time. And like, even, you know, we showed this book like in its various processes and its, you know, along its, you know, development to friends, a lot of friends in the industry and stuff like that. And I literally had like one of my friends tell me like, my labia looks like that, and like that was so cool to see. So like, right, like I'm sorry, am I allowed to say labia? Like,
it's a word, it's in the dictionary. But yeah,
and I know that's like kind of a small silly thing, but like in a world where we are in a lot of ways made to be told we are supposed to be ashamed of not only how our bodies look, but like, you know, when, you know, those bodies come in contact with other bodies, like that's also something you might need to have shame about. And I didn't want that to be a rule in our world. I didn't want the baked in idea that we all needed to be ashamed of our bodies and ashamed of sex to even have like a whiff of that in our world. Like, is
I think that's fantastic.
And I think that was, I hope that feels like the motivation behind why we did what we did, other than we're like, hey, here's some genitalia, folks.
No. Okay. So full disclosure, I mean, I come from a nudist family, so I've been at nude beaches since I was 12. So, and so I am very, very familiar with this concept of bodies are bodies, and I believe in that, and I think you guys did a great job of that. It's one of the things I really enjoyed about, like, and I don't want to. It may have come across that I was shocked when I first got the book, okay. And I wasn't say shocked. I didn't necessarily expect the what I was going to get, and I'm not saying that I didn't. I thought it was. I think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely gorgeously crafted, but my point is that one of the things that I really did enjoy about it was I saw that the different shapes and the different inclusivity of different types of things, and inclusivity of gender and inclusivity of orientation, and that's all there, and it belongs to everybody. This is not a book for one particular style of personality, I would say.
Yep.
I want to turn a little bit. I want to talk about Ryle, because we haven't talked about Ryle, and I want to know where he comes from. He seems like he's important, so tell us about him.
Yeah, Ryle is important, and there's aspects about Ryle that I don't want to necessarily spoil in the first issue, because it's fun reveal. But yeah, I think Ryle, like, just the sheer ludicrousness of Ryle's name is Kyle with an R. As we were throwing at names, trying to come up with a character, I think Chris was like, "What if it was Kyle with an R?" And I was like, "That's so awful." That it
sounds fake.
Says everything you need to know about this guy. Like, I absolutely love Ryle. I think he is.
I think he might be your favorite.
He might be my favorite. He is just kind of a mess. Very, very kind of chaotically just throwing himself through life. And he is, deeper purpose. We start to see a little bit of in issue 1. We understand what he's doing.
He needs Vaz.
He does. He needs Vaz. Vaz takes care of him. And in a way, I think he feels that he takes care of Vaz. And the way sometimes best friends feel like they're always taking care of the other one. In reality, they really do need each other. But yeah, I think there's real fun. So Ryle is kind of our chaotic element to this story, whereas as Maeve is very engaged and very fun and very focused. Ryle is just like
weaving in and out.
Yeah, careening through life, just crashing into stuff.
He's gonna throw her off track.
Yep.
More than once, probably.
Probably, yeah, surely. Yeah, and Ryle plays an important role in the story once the story gets going, as far as where the story will go in the future. And I'm very excited to get back to Ryle in future issues and kind of explore a little bit more of his background and potentially what has put him in a position where he's just kind of careening through things, and what that says and why that is that he is that. But also he's just kind of like a messy, dirty druid bisexual, and I love him so much. Dirty Forest Man, and I love him so much. Yeah. I think so many of the puns or lines about Ryle, I think those were mine.
Yeah. I definitely remember very vividly like having a conversation about, you know, sort of what Ryle's like, you know, because he's also one of the, you know, remaining magic users left free roaming around the world. And you know, he has premonitions of the future. Well, you know, there's a lot of different ways throughout fantasy that people, you know, discern the future. Like, do they cast bones or look into a crystal ball? Like, what's his method of discerning the future? And I think you definitely coined the term seed reader.
Mm-hmm. I do love that term.
Thank you.
I think it's brilliant. I really do. It's a great, because you don't. It's what kind of seed? What kind of seed are you talking about?
Exactly.
I don't know.
I think there were so many times in the development of this, we would come up with an idea or a name or a turn of phrase, and we would either check in with each other or we text a friend and be like, "Is this the worst thing ever or the best thing ever?"
Could be either.
It could be either, and generally,
Seed Reader was either going to be the best thing or the worst thing. Like, and we knew it going in. So,
yeah, I mean, even the title of the book, we had probably 100 or 200 different titles, and we spent weeks just like beating our head against the wall trying to come up. And in the middle of that was where the title came, but it was one of those like, I don't know. And once we kind of circled back around, I texted a couple friends in comics and was like, "Is this the worst title for this book or the best title?" And they just laughed hysterically and said it's the best title ever.
I mean, I've been talking to people for a week about it, you know, about, you know, that you guys were going to be on and what the title of the book was, and everybody gets it and everybody loves it. And I think you hit it out the park on that one.
I do love seeing the aha moment when it clicks with people after a minute. They're like, "Oh, she does what with magic now?"
I'm just really excited for you. I think this is part of why I wanted to have this conversation too with you guys. We talked earlier. I mentioned earlier about, you know, underground comics and comics that were not published by large companies that you could get a hold of. And when I was younger, there were places to find them. I actually had a conversation with Torrin Grumbeck about trying to find those types of comics at one point. And you know, that was, you know, what you did when you were younger. But here today, there is a place where you can get them, and Kickstarter is one of those places. Yeah. But what I think is that this story is a good story to be being told, and I think that it puts the story of oppression and in a world where the people are being their wealth and their agency is being siphoned, but it puts it in a story where there's an adventure, right? And that adventure is both magical and sexual and physical. And I really love the way that you're playing with the comic medium and the adult comic medium and the fantasy realm and kind of putting it together. And I think you did a great job of it. And it's not easy to do all those three of those things at the same time.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it was a conscious choice and a lot of work and effort went into it. We wanted it to, you know, stand on par with quality of anything you could get from, you know, a larger publisher, or you could buy from a comic book store. We poured ourselves in because, you know, that's one of the great things about Kickstarter is it is a great entry into comics, and you can have stuff from people who are brand new to stuff with people who are very seasoned veterans. There's an entire spectrum of experience and quality that goes into it. And we were like, if we're going to do this, we want it to be like as high quality as we can possibly produce. We want it to stand out among, you know, the books that people can give their hard-earned money to. Like, things are tight and things are scary, and if people are pledging their money to us, we want to do all we can to make sure when they get their copy of the book or whatever it is that they pledge to, that they feel very much that it was worth their money and worth their time. And we very much don't take that for granted at all, and want to value the trust that people put in the book and in us with their hard-earned dollars.
I mean, that was kind of another thing I kind of wanted to talk about was the price point on the rewards. I think you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
We've, you know, there are, you know, I have a lot of friends. I've had arguments with friends who struggled to get their Kickstarters across the finish line, and I'm like, your prices are too low. You think about how many people you're going to need to get to do that. I think you guys hit a great point. And I want for people who aren't aware, the digital edition is $10. The cover A edition is $15. That is, for a 32-page comic, that's great. That's what you're going to get for something that you got that's essentially handmade, that you only can get here. Because let's be honest, there's not going to be a day when this is going to be showing up in your comic shop. You're not going to go and print it and distribute it. This is going to be, you know, you got to get it here.
Yeah.
I think that's a good price. I think that's a good place for people to be able to get in, to get a special comic. You know, a lot of people go higher, and some people, you know, go lower. But I think that's right for the value you're getting here. Plus, there's tons of stretch goals that you guys are going to be hitting. It's going to make it better. We're already at the Maeve and Vaz stickers, which I'm very excited for. And then there's tons of other stretch goals that you guys have. I think, you know, there are some other options in terms of different covers. There's some options related to the some things you're going to provide in terms of, if people, I don't know if they're gone yet, but they're probably not many left in terms of sketch.
Yeah, there's just an original art. Sketch commissions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just introduced this week a gold foil logo edition of the comic. So if you want something super fancy and special that is very limited, we just updated that. And Kickstarter has a lot of people who are like all into the collectible aspect of what they do.
It looks pretty on the shelf.
We have,
we have one like right here.
We had the cover C, which is like a spicy wraparound cover that we couldn't really even show on Kickstarter. Higher price point, limited edition, and that thing sold out so fast. We were like, oh damn, we can do the foil logo version now. Like, I was holding that back because I was like, you know, that costs a lot of money to print, and we want to make sure that people actually are interested in higher end stuff. And it sold out our exclusive cover so fast, we added it in.
Yeah, and the fact that they are buying the super extra double spicy, not safe for work limited edition cover without us being able to show it on Kickstarter.
Yeah, listen,
I was very happy about.
What I you're right about that. You know, and Christy, the point is that they haven't even seen it yet. Like, I've seen it.
It's great.
It's great. I mean, I haven't seen. Oh, is that the third? Oh, that's the cover. Have I seen the cover?
It was included in the PDF of the first issue. So yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's a big.
Oh yeah.
That'll wrap around the
well, it's sold out, so I can't hype it. But okay, I got it. But I'm just saying the book. They haven't seen the book, and because the page on the Kickstarter campaign is tame and appropriate, but well stated in terms of what's going to happen. I want to just, if we can, just turn away from She Comes with Magic, and we'll come back to it.
Sure.
I want to talk a little bit about comics in general, and I want to talk for you, Philip, like, you've been doing this for a long time. This is your third Kickstarter, but you haven't done one in quite a while.
Correct.
Why is it comics for you? And I think that's one of the questions I ask. You know, a lot of podcasters have questions. They ask the same question to a lot of people. That's mine. Why comics? You're an artist. You're a brilliant artist. Why are you in this medium?
I think the fascinating thing for me about comics, and this goes a little bit to the Scott McCloud-ism of it all, where Scott McCloud essentially defines sequential art. And I'm sorry, I'm sounding like professorial, but I've taught comics in college off and on for years. But, you know, he talks about sequential storytelling is the juxtaposition of two images placed next to each other. And, you know, the space in between the two images is where our brain connects them and creates a story out of them. So I love the group participatory nature of a story, to where me as a creator and a storyteller, I can have an intention and tell a story. And I have so many different ways to go about this. And it is a real fun study and a challenge to try and communicate clearly and dynamically and do all the things you're supposed to do as a storyteller. But then once it goes out of the world, the reader then takes that and they look at those images and their brain creates a story and finds meaning. And there's this kind of communal connection from a storytelling standpoint, where together we are creating these stories and we are creating these myths. And they mean different things to different people, but there's a shared connection of our love to them. And I say that also as someone who's read comics since they were really little, who's wanted to do this for 35 years. To get to this point. And I think that part of it just fascinates me and excites me. And there's an amount of like, you are so involved in comics when you read them. It's such an involved experience that you are connected to them in a way that you are not connected to in a lot of other mediums. Like, I love TV and movies, but that is something you sit and watch and you can think about them and you can feel. But comics, you are in the comics. You are part of the comics. Your brain lives with the X-Men and lives with Batman and Spawn and anyone else. Like, it is part of who you are. And I think that's why comic fans across the spectrum of people love comics, because they get to be part of the comics. And I love being involved in that.
I love that answer. I never quite thought of it and had that you're part of it while you're consuming it thing. And I think I agree with you in a lot of ways. I kind of want to ask Christie, I want to ask you the same question. You came from a journalistic background and now you've dabbled here and now you're a comic creator, regardless of whether you want to be or not. What draws it to you?
Yeah, I mean, so with journalism, there is like a very, like, in the writing of it, there is very much a, you know, get to the most important point as soon as you can and you know, lay out the facts as succinctly and as tightly as you can, as urgently as you can. You know, I wrote for print and I wrote for TV news as well. And like, you know, time is and space in those industries are at a premium, right? It is always get to the quick, get to the punch. And I think there's something about the way sort of I trained my brain to write in those spaces that like really latched on to comics as well, because it has that like so much potential as like a medium for these really tight, condensed stories that, like, on the surface, you know, it's you know, A, B, C plot, like beginning, middle, end, but you can pack so much beneath the surface and what's said, what's not said, the space between panels, like, and because there is the limited real estate as far as the panel, the page, you know, however big the book is, like, you have to be so tight and so intentional. And I think it's really the intentionality of comics that I'm really, really drawn to. Like, I'm sure people like occasionally flippantly come to comics and create comics, like, you know, they're just putting it out there. But I think for the most part, like, when you look at people's creator-owned work and when they really care about it and when it's their passion project, like, the intention to tell the story in this medium and really make it sing, and just all of those layers that you can peel back as you're reading it. Like, I love it. I love it so much. Like, and I've talked to, as a journalist, like, I've interviewed a lot of comic creators, and that's something I love to ask them too. Like, why comics? Like, because so many have written for film, or they've written for TV, or, you know, they also write prose, but they always come back to comics. It's a siren song, I think, for a lot of people. Once you've done it, you just can't get away from it.
That's awesome. That's great. I also want to point out that your Power Rangers book comes out tomorrow. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I started drawing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the new series from Boom Studios this year. Marguerite Bennett is writing it. And Andrew Lee Griffith and I are alternating. So he's drawing the first 2 issues, and then I'm drawing issues 3 and 4. So technically my first issue launches next month, but I believe issue 2 is out tomorrow, which is important because you got to have the first 2 issues to understand the story. So yeah, I drew issue 3 and 4, and now I'm in the process of drawing 6 and 7. And they are self-contained little short stories, similarly structured to the original show. Marguerite's kind of goal from the beginning was like, let's make this fun. Let's make it accessible. We are taking the 5 original Rangers, and now it is 10 years after high school graduation. They've all moved on from being Rangers, and they're pulled back into it. So they're now trying to figure out how to balance being a Ranger with being an adult, a post-college. Now I'm in my career, and kind of encountering the balancing act that takes. And it's been really fun. I was drawing a page in the middle of issue 6 today, and I can't talk that far in advance, but like,
Sure,
there's such fun stuff. And Marguerite is such a great writer, and she's an incredible collaborator too. She is so good to work with, and really wants you to have a good time, and wants to write the stuff that you enjoy drawing. So we've had a good time. Yeah. So it just launched last month. Issue 1 came out, issue 2 is out this week, and then 3 will be out in August, and we're alternating, so it stays monthly and comes out really fast.
I love that idea, and I love Marguerite. I love the way she writes. I love the way she, she entices a reader from page to, just the story she has. Been a fan of hers for a very, very long time, and I'm glad you're working with her, and I'm glad this is coming out. And I might actually pick it up. I am older than the Power Rangers generation. Let's put it that way. But I appreciate, that's one of the things about comics, is that there are so many different things that people love and enjoy, and they have it in this medium, and I love that they have it.
Yeah.
It may not be for me, but I love that people can enjoy the medium and the things that they love in that. Let's talk about you guys. You said you worked on a couple of other things together, and now this. What's the long-term goal for this story? If we're living in a fantasy world, we have unlimited resources.
Yeah.
If we had druthers.
I think the goal and the plan is to bring a new issue to Kickstarter every about 3 months and release 4 issues a year. Each issue will be 32 pages long. So every year we'll produce about 6 issues worth of content because they're big. And then hopefully collect them about every 4 issues and do a soft cover trade and go to the next arc. And honestly, we could do this for like 10 years at that pace, if not more. Like, there's so much we could do with the story
that we want to do.
Yeah. I can't wait to dig in and do more, because it is structured in such a way where each issue is like, what can we do to surprise ourselves and to tell a new aspect of the story and to push it further along, but make it as exciting and as fun and as powerful as we can.
I think that, first of all, I'm on board with that. That's great. Second of all, I want to talk a little bit about, Philip, you came into this industry kind of on the indie side of things, kind of doing some a bunch of creator and stuff. You've done things for big publishers. You've done some things for smaller publishers that have been some work. I'm sure some of it work for hire, some of it's creator owned.
Yeah.
What is it that you feel about how the industry has changed since you've started working in it in the last 10 years?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think
15,
comics, yeah, that's okay. It's been a while. Comics are thankfully to a degree cyclical, in that there will unfortunately be downtimes, but often comics react fast enough and have enough creative, really brilliant people in there that the industry finds a way to turn itself around and continue forward. So I mean, like I went to art school in 2010. I started a webcomic in 2009. It took me until 2013, 14 to break in working for publishers. And during that time, like 2011, pre New 52, the industry was cratering hardcore. And New 52, regardless of how you feel about the like commercial quality of it, like it brought sales up, and that's where we saw the big image boom of like Saga and so many books of that nature came because more people were in stores. And you know, we've seen a downturn in the last few years, but in the last year, between things like the Absolute line and the Energon universe, we've started to see the rising tide affect a lot of creator-owned books at Image and other places. So being in it and watching it kind of go up and down, it's nice to know that in the difficult times, comics is always looking for a way to be better and to do better and to sell more. Like, no one gets into comics to be rich. No one gets into comics for health insurance or retirement. We do it because we love it. So when it struggles, like, we definitely struggle, but we have the passion and love. We always want to see it succeed and do better. So opportunities when I have to do stuff like creator-owned books like this are just like they're soul fulfilling and rewarding. Even if not always commercially successful, though thankfully this Kickstarter's been doing well. So yeah, I enjoy both doing for hire work. Like, give me like superheroes. Those are the toys in my toy box from the time I was a kid. I absolutely love drawing and playing with them, but I also love getting a chance to tell stuff that is more personal to me and to us, and to really kind of, you know, put your how did Mark Waid describe it? Just like open up a vein and bleed onto the page. Which
sure,
is like graphic imagery, but at the same time, like, you pour yourself into it. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, like, I've seen things go up and down. I've seen companies do well, and I've seen them struggle. And in the end, my hope is that we'll continually push forward and find new and better ways to bring people into comics, to help them fall in love with the medium we love so much, and to make it healthier and stronger as we can. You mentioned we're heading into San Diego Comic-Con in the next like week and a half, and there's going to be a whole slew of exciting announcements, and hopefully those things do well, and they're both quality and sell well, and continue to bring money and bring fans into comics to support creators and give us the freedom to tell stories. I was talking to an editor at a company a couple months ago, and they've been having a lot of success with some of their books, and what it did was took pressure off the editorial lines to like have to make everything sell well, because the company was like, we're doing good, do cool stuff, and the editor was like, sure, I'm bringing some of the coolest pitches I've been able to work on in my time here, because things are doing okay with us right now. We have the freedom to tell more interesting and exciting stories, which will then bring in more readers generally. So,
right, yeah, that's the thing, that freedom to do the cool stuff, because you can't, because cool stuff is more risky, right?
Yeah.
So it might work, and if it does, it probably is going to be fantastic. Mm-hmm. But if it doesn't, then you've wasted, and you had that small period. So I love that. I think, you know, we talk about it a lot on the show. I feel like, and Mike has agreed with me, that we are in a world where there is better, consistent comics than we have ever had. More of that. I think just across the board. One of the things that we see all the time is the health of publishers and the health of how things go. And it's hard sometimes, because we look at places like Dark Horse and we're like, oh, what's gonna happen there? Oop, what's gonna happen over here at Mad Cave? Oop, and we root for them, because the more people that are in comics, the better it is for comics, and the better it is for people to be able to tell stories like this that are both fun, but also challenging your perspective on where you are in the world, both emotionally and intellectually. And that's what makes comics good. Comics, to me, and I say it all the time, I say read more comics. They're good for you because they move you, they challenge your soul, and if you read them and if you let them, you will be moved. Mm-hmm. And this book totally does it.
Oh, thank you.
before I let you guys go, I want to talk to you because you both have worked on this a lot. I want to talk about the nature of anthologies in comics, and one of the things we talk about a lot on the show, and how Mike is a huge fan of that. Like when a lot of times we don't realize that even like back in the 50s, every comic was an anthology comic. There were 3 stories in each book, and that's how it went. And we kind of got away from that in the 70s and beyond, in the 80s especially. But there are so many different, you guys have been parts of single issue anthologies or collected edition, larger anthologies. What do you feel about a story that where you're saying, I just need 7 pages, I just need 8 pages, I need 3 pages? How is that different for you versus I'm going to make a 22-page issue?
I mean, this is actually my first not short that I
worked on.
So like in comics wise anyway.
By the way, I love all of the collected edition, all of the anthologies you've been a part of. I have all of them. So
I mean, fantastic editors and teams and creative people that have put those together. I've been really lucky to be in some amazing books with just really rad people. Like I don't know. Yeah, it's fantastic. But I mean, I think for me, I really do love the challenge of like tell a story in 8 pages, like tell a complete story in 4 pages. Like, once again, coming out of, for me, like 4 pages, like that's so much space. I can do so much in 4 pages, right? Like,
right, sure.
But
as opposed to 800 words and that's it.
Right, and now it's like the freedom of having 32 pages. It's I don't know. It really does feel like the only limit is us, like what we can think of, what we can imagine. And but that means we're also kind of creating our own box, right? Like where I really like putting that box sometimes around like a creative project, because you can really like get overwhelmed when it's like, oh, you can go in a million different ways, but you're like, no, you have to do something in 4 pages or 8 pages or whatever. And that's like such an interesting like challenge for a brain to like dive into and puzzle together and really find like, okay, what are the 4 most important moments that need to happen in this story? And I'll have 1 on each page or whatever however I shape that out, right? With this, it's like, oh, we can have so many big moments. So we pretty much have to like dial ourselves into like what's the best way to use this space. But you probably have way more thoughts about this as somebody who's done a lot more long form stuff.
Yeah, I think in art school and then working with art students over the years teaching, I think a lot of times early on in the creative career, people will be like, I've got a 32 volume epic that I want to tell, and I'm like, that's amazing, that's great, hold on to that, and first learn how to tell a story in 4 pages. I learned to tell a story in 6 pages and in 8 pages, and understand if I strip it down to the essentials, how do I do that well? Like some of the best writers in comics, your Alan Moores, your Grant Morrisons, they came from 2000 AD, where literally, or Shock Rockets books, where they had 4 to 6 pages every single week, and they had to figure out, how do I structure stuff like V for Vendetta, Miracle Man. So many of those books started as 4-page shorts or 8-page shorts, and like those writers
scripts for 100 pages though.
Yeah. But man, like they learn how to tell a story in such a short amount of time. So when they were given larger canvases, you have incredible runs like in The Invisibles and like the Alan Moore Swamp Thing or anything of that nature. Like learning how to tell a great story in 4 pages means you won't lose that when you get to 32 or to 48 or to 128. You still have those same core skill set in mind. So like I love doing anthology shorts. I try to do 1 or 2 a year or every other year, just to like try something new and keep those skills sharp. And what can I do to distill this big idea into a small space? And it's always like a very creatively challenging but rewarding experience. You learn a ton, and you discover so many cool up and comers and existing people in comics through anthologies. So I'm a huge fan both of being in them and then also finding and collecting and supporting them.
That's the fun part. Like even as I was preparing for this and kind of looking back at some of the work that you guys have done, and I looked at some of those anthologies and I looked at some of them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this person was in that book. This person
Yep.
was in that book. Now they're superstars. So
Yeah.
many of them, so much of that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I recommend when I'm on like how to break into comics panels or talking to students. They're like, what do I do? And I was like, nowadays, scour the internet for open anthology submissions, because that will help you sharpen your skills. It will help you expand your professional network, and you will get published and printed work with a minimal investment of time and money. Like drawing 4 pages could take you 2 or 3 weeks, but it's only 2 or 3 weeks instead of like 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever.
You're published.
Exactly. I was talking to my friend Morgan Beam. Morgan and I went to art school together, and she is one of my favorite humans alive. Right. Morgan is
absolutely,
incredible.
absolutely.
One of the best humans alive.
Love, absolutely. I agree 100%.
Absolutely the best.
We're Morgan stands.
Yeah, we are big time. And she was talking about early on in her career, she just did a bunch of anthologies one year, 2 or 3 different ones. And she had a writer reach out to her and ask her, like hired her to collaborate on a project, because the writer was like, I got a bunch of anthologies and you were in every single one. And I was like, who is this artist? I need to pay attention. They are up and coming and they're amazing. And it led to work.
You're right.
And that's what I recommend people do. Start there. It's a great way to do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I want to come back to we're running to the end here, and you guys have been so fantastic listening to me talk and sharing with me. She Comes with Magic is currently funding on Kickstarter. If you haven't paid attention, the link is in the comments. You can go get it. It is there are 21 days to go, so you got like 3 weeks. Go. Plenty of options. Some of the options are already sold out, so you've missed it, but that doesn't mean you can't get the book. There's so much in this world that's being created. I've read this book. I love this book. I will support it. What do you want people to come away from? One thing, if you can distill it down to, what is it you want people to read this book and come away with?
That is such a good question. Did you have a distillation?
Yeah,
One of the things that I think about it is that it is a fun amalgamation of a bunch of different interesting characters who are struggling in a world that they're trying to make better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what really, really sums it up for me. That's the thing that makes me, really want to engage with this. It's visually gorgeous. It is erotically exciting. But the core of the story, the comic story that's being told, is a bunch of people who are, or characters, and that are trying to make their world better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good distillation. Yeah, like I think you summed it up better than us. I was like, oh man, like, is there one word I can use?
Yeah, I was really trying to condense it down to like.
But that's absolutely it. It's everything we want in a story, across the entirety of the emotional spectrum and characters. And I said I've been working in comics 10-15 years now, and I've never had more fun than when drawing this book.
That's wonderful.
There were panels I would spend a day drawing, and I would zoom out and be like, crap, I spent 12 hours drawing a panel that's like 2 inches tall. I zoomed way. There doesn't need to be 700 people in this background.
There is a shop in the comic that you will see if you pick up the book, and I think you spent so long just filling in the shelves of this shop and every single tiny little item, and then the panel's like.
Yeah, no, I absolutely have loved doing it. It's been one of my favorite things I've ever done in my career, and I'm excited to keep going forward and grateful for the support we've had. And like you mentioned, we got 3 weeks left. We've hit our first stretch goal, and most of our stretch goals go back into the book. Like a couple stretch goals in, we're going to give a raise to our colorist and pay them more for their contributions, and it will just help us make future issues. And that's really what we're excited about. And we got some fun like stickers and knickknacks along the way, but in the end, we wanted to focus on your investment in the book is our investment in the book, and we will continue to do more with it with your support.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here and sharing your stories with me and the book with all of us. We're excited about it. We'll hopefully issue 2 we'll talk some more.
Hopefully so. Yeah. Come in later this fall if everything goes goes well.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. This is great.
Bye. All right, folks. That was a lot of fun. I'm super excited about this book. I hope you will back it. I hope you will tell us what you think about this conversation. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all this silly stuff we have to do here. We're going to be back next week. Elliot Rahal is going to be here. I didn't even get a chance to talk to Philip about the fact that he worked with Elliot on one of his more recent things, which I am it's one of those things where your shop, you get issue 1 and then you try to get issue 2 and it's never there. So I need to go back and get, don't forget your briefcase. But Elliot's going to be here. We're going to talk about his new thing. He's been on the Pop Culture SquadCast before, back in the day. It'll be his first appearance on the live show. So we're excited for that. We'll see you next week. If you're going to a show, let us know what's going on. We'll see you guys later. Thanks, everybody. Make sure you read more comics. They're good for you. And we'll talk to you later. Bye.
This has been a production of the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?